The first tree screams as it burns. Flame crawls up ancient bark in a spiral of orange and black, sap hissing like blood on coals. The air over Fangorn shivers with heat and terror, and in that roar of fire there is another sound, deeper and older, the cracking of a will that once moved like mountains. Roots writhe under the soil as if trying to flee themselves. High above, two vast eyes, once green as spring, slowly darken and turn toward the plains of Rohan. If you want more journeys into these darker paths of Middle-earth, you can help shape them. Like the video, subscribe so you will not miss the next turning of the tale, and tell me in the comments which realm you would stand for in this war of branches and steel. Smoke rolls low over the eaves of Fangorn, a crawling fog that tastes of pitch and ruin. Night presses close, but it is not the gentle dark of stars and whispering leaves. This is a red-streaked gloom pulsing with distant forges, with the clank of iron and the bark of harsh commands in the black speech. Fangorn is not yet aflame from end to end, not yet. It begins, as most great calamities do, with a decision made far away under a sky that does not know these woods. In Barad-dûr, the eye of Sauron turns west. He has felt the stirring of something older than the kingdoms of men, a slow thunder moving in the depths of the world. Reports from Isengard have grown more frantic, more disjointed. Saruman writes of trees that move, of shadows that strike without sound, of an ancient shepherd who rouses his kind from millennia of sleep. Sauron does not fear trees, he fears what wakes them. In the high chamber of Orthanc, Saruman stands before the Palantir, his white robe stained with soot from the forges below. His hand trembles upon the dark glass. He has already lost too much to Fangorn, his armies harried, his roads choked, his plans delayed. He has seen Ents in his dreams, towering over his walls, their hands like battering rams. He has seen Orthanc drowned in a sea of green. Sauron's will slams into his like a hammer. Your forest stirs, the Dark Lord's thought hisses, not in any tongue of men or elves, but in the raw language of domination. You let the old powers wake. You let them remember. Saruman's jaw tightens. They are but trees. I will tame them. You will fail, the eye replies, with a terrible certainty. Unless you bind their shepherd, I will show you how. Below, in the deep places of Fangorn, Treebeard walks alone. He walks as the sun sets, for he has always loved the last light on the leaves, the way it turns the world briefly to gold before surrendering to twilight. His steps are slow, each footfall a conversation with the soil. Roots part for him and close again. Birds settle on his shoulders, unafraid. He is humming to himself, an old song with no words, only the rise and fall of ages. He has heard of the strange folk passing through his woods, of halflings and a gray wizard. He has felt the tremor of war on the eastern wind, has smelt the iron on the Isen. He knows that the world changes again, as it has changed so many times. But Fangorn endures, he thinks. The trees endure. He has endured. Then he feels it, a prickle along his bark, like frost where no frost should be. A taste in the air, metallic and bitter. The birds on his shoulders take wing all at once, crying warnings in voices too quick for Entish. Treebeard stops. The wind dies. Far off, beyond the range of any mortal sight, the eye of Sauron narrows. In Orthanc, Saruman raises his staff. On the plains between Isengard and Fangorn, where the first of his pits have bitten into the earth, a circle of men and orcs stand around a stake driven deep into the ground. Upon that stake is bound a thing like a crystal, black as a starless night, veined with red fire. It is a fragment of something older than the world, a shard of the mountain where Sauron first forged the One. It has slept under ash and lava for ages beyond counting, until the Dark Lord called it up and broke it for this purpose. The shard pulses once. Treebeard hears a sound like a distant bell, but the note goes on and on, sinking into the marrow of the forest. Leaves shudder. Sap slows. The very air seems to thicken, like honey turning to tar. He turns his great head toward the sound. Strange, he rumbles, more to himself than to any listener. There is something new, something wrong. He takes another step. The ground under his root-like feet has grown sticky, not with mud, not with water, with something that clings and drags. A blackness that spreads in threads, thin as spider silk, but strong as iron chains. He looks down. The webs are not on the surface. They are in the soil itself, weaving through roots and stones, glimmering faintly with a red light that is not light at all, but will made manifest. Far away, the shard pulses again. Saruman speaks words that are not his own, words that scrape like knives across the inside of his skull. He feels them leaving his mouth, feels his tongue shape them, but they taste of ash and old blood. Come, shepherd of trees, the spell whispers through the earth. Come and see, come and bow. Treebeard's next step sinks deeper than it should. His foot touches a nexus of the web, and the world lurches. He feels, for the first time in his long life, something enter him that is not water or sun or the slow learning of years. It is a spike driven into the core of his thought. It is a hook. He roars. Birds explode from the canopy in a storm of wings. Smaller trees sway away from him, leaves clattering in alarm. The ground buckles as if trying to throw him off. He tries to pull his foot free. The web tightens. A voice, vast and cold, speaks inside his head. Old One, Sauron says, you have wandered long in dreams. Wake now. Treebeard has known fear. He has known fire, axes, the slow gnawing of time. He has known the grief of watching valleys drown and mountains crumble. But he has never known this. The sense of his own thoughts being not enough, of another mind pressing against his like a storm against a forest. He pushes back. He is Fangorn, eldest of the Onodrim. He remembers the first rain. He remembers the first birdsong. He remembers when the world was young and the elves had no words yet for trees. He remembers. The web blazes red. Saruman staggers as the backlash slams through the shard, through the palantir, through his own skull. Blood trickles from his nose. His hand tightens on his staff until the knuckles whiten. He resists. He gasps. He is strong, Sauron agrees. Stronger than you, but he is alone. The Dark Lord's gaze sweeps westward, over the misty mountains, over the fields of Rohan, over the White City. It lingers on a small, distant light, flickering like a candle in a storm. Gandalf the White rides north with the three hunters, still days from Edoras, still ignorant that the path of history has already begun to twist. Sauron smiles, though he has no lips. We will not break him, he says. We will bend him. The shard pulses a third time. The web under Fangorn spreads in a sudden rush, a net tightening around a thrashing beast. It climbs the roots of ancient trees. It seeps into streams. It wraps itself around stones that remember the weight of glaciers. It reaches up into Treebeard. He feels it coiling around his memories, around his songs. It touches the image of the Entwives, their faces blurred by ages of sorrow. It brushes against the taste of sunlight on young leaves. the laughter of elves in the starlit clearings of Cuiviénen. It finds his anger. Ah, here is something Sauron understands. The old rage, banked for centuries at axes and fires, at men who burn and cut and never plant. At Saruman, who has bitten into the edge of Fangorn with his furnaces and his pits. At the world that has grown so noisy, so quick, so heedless. This, Sauron whispers too, as a smith whispers to molten metal. They hurt your trees, the voice murmurs, not in the black speech now, but in Entish, slow and sonorous. They burn your children. They tear the earth. They poison the waters. Images rise unbidden in Treebeard's mind. Pits smoking where groves once stood. The carcasses of trees lying like slain deer, their rings exposed to the sky. Orcs laughing as they drag branches into the fire. Men with torches shouting, "Careless. They will not stop," the voice says. Not Saruman, not men, not any of them. They will cut until there is nothing left. Treebeard tries to answer, but his tongue feels thick. The web tightens around his throat. "You are strong," the voice continues. "So very strong, but you are few, so very few. You wake your people to die." He sees, as if from above, the Entmoot that has not yet happened. A circle of ancient figures, their bark cracked with age, their eyes slow and kind. He sees them marching, roaring, tearing down stone and iron. He sees them burning. "You cannot win," the voice says. "Not alone, not as you are." Treebeard's hands, vast and knotted, clench at his sides. The bark creaks. "What would you have me do?" The words grind out of him like boulders rolling. Far away in Barad-dûr, the eye flares. "Serve," Sauron answers, "and be avenged." The shard erupts in a pillar of red-black fire. In Fangorn, the web contracts all at once, like a fist closing. It drives into Treebeard's core, into the slow, deep well of his being. It does not shatter him. It does something worse. It turns him. His eyes, green and gentle, flare with a light that is not his own. For a moment, they are twin reflections of the eye that watches from Mordor. Then the light dims, leaving a shadow behind it. The birds circling above him falter, confused. Treebeard straightens. He does not roar now. He does not thrash. His movements are smooth, deliberate. The ground seems to lean away from him, as if the land itself has sensed the change and recoils. He lifts one vast foot and sets it down. The roots do not part for him this time. They tear. In Orthanc, Saruman sags with relief and horror. The backlash that had threatened to blast his mind into ash fades. The Palantir cools under his hand. "You have him," he whispers. "No," Sauron says. "We have him. You will guide him. You will aim him." Saruman stares eastward, toward the unseen eye, and for a heartbeat, the old pride stirs in him, the memory of being Curanir, wisest of the Maya, unbent and unafraid. To share power is to lose power, he thinks. Then he looks west, toward Fangorn, and imagines those towering shapes turned not against his walls, but against his enemies, against Rohan. "The Rittermark will burn," he says, and there is a terrible satisfaction in it. "The Rittermark will fall," Sauron corrects. "Burning is only the beginning." Under the darkening canopy, Treebeard begins to walk. He does not turn toward Isengard, as he would have, as he should have. He turns south and east, toward the wide, rolling plains where grass whispers under the wind and horses run free. He turns toward Edoras. Merry and Pippin, that night, sleep in the crook of another Ents' arms, high in the branches, safe and unaware. They dream of second breakfasts and Greenshire hills. They dream of Gandalf's fireworks. They do not dream of the sound that will wake them. The first trees begin to move. At dawn, in the golden hall of Meduseld, Theoden King sits slumped upon his carved wooden throne, his hair thin and gray, his eyes clouded. The air smells of smoke and fear. Grima Wormtongue stands at his side, dripping poison into the king's ear with every soft word. Outside, the sky over Edoras is a pale, washed-out blue. The banners of the horse lords hang limp. The people move like ghosts, their steps slow, their laughter gone. Eowyn walks the halls like a caged hawk. She pauses by a window and looks east, toward the distant line of the White Mountains. The light seems wrong today, she thinks. Too red at the edges, as if the sun has cut itself and bleeds into the sky. She hears, faintly, the clatter of hooves in the stables below, the mutter of men sharpening swords they are not allowed to draw. She hears, more faintly still, something else. A low, distant rumble, like thunder under the earth. She frowns. In the Westfold, a farmer named Hamas' son stands at the edge of his field and stares at the tree line. The oaks and beeches there have always been his friends. He has carved his name into one when he was a boy. He has kissed a girl under another. He is hidden in their shade during summer, has watched his children play among the roots. They are closer, he is sure of it. He squints, wiping sweat from his brow. The morning is unusually hot. A haze lies over the grass, making the distant shapes waver. No, he tells himself, trees do not move. That is a tale for children, for long winter nights. Then one of the trunks takes a step. The ground shivers under his boots. He drops his scythe. "Fader," he calls, voice breaking. "Fader, come and see." His father, old Hama, who had once ridden with Theoden in his youth, comes limping from the house. He peers, his eyes narrowed. He sees a line of trees, tall and dark, advancing across the fields. They are not marching in ranks, like men. They move as a forest would move if it had a will, swaying, shifting, roots tearing free and plunging down again. Birds wheel above them in a screaming cloud. The air around them shimmers with heat. At their head walks a figure larger than the rest, his beard a tangle of moss and root, his eyes like coals banked in deep hollows. Old Hama remembers stories told by firelight of the Onodrim, the shepherds of the trees. He remembers the name Fangorn. His mouth goes dry. He whispers a prayer to Bema, to any who might listen. The Ents do not slow. In the distance, behind them, a thin line of smoke rises from the northern horizon, where Fangorn meets the lands chewed by Isengard. It is not the thick black smoke of Saruman's forges. It is gray, bitter, full of the scent of burning leaves. The edge of Fangorn burns. In the shadow of the trees, a band of orcs in Saruman's livery watch the advancing Ents with a mixture of awe and terror. Their captain, a scarred Uruk, spits on the ground. "Never thought I would see the day trees go to war," he snarls. Beside him, a man of Dunland, wrapped in furs despite the heat, makes a sign against evil. "They are not our friends," he mutters. "They will crush us as they crush the straw heads." The Uruk laughs, a harsh barking sound. "Orders are orders," he says. "We burn the forest behind them, like the White Hand says. No going back, only forward." He lifts a torch. Behind the Ents, the fire spreads, driving them before it like beasts before a hunt. Treebeard feels the heat licking at his back. He hears the crackle of branches, the shrieks of smaller trees as they burn. Once he would have turned. Once he would have roared and stamped out the flames, would have torn the firemakers limb from limb. Now the web tightens whenever his will strays. Forward, the voice inside him whispers. Forward, to the horse killers, to the stone builders, to the axemen, his great hands clench. Whom, he rumbles, the sound low and strange. They will pay. He does not know whom he means. At the edge of Fangorn, Merry and Pippin wake to the sound of distant thunder. They sit up, blinking, in the crook of Bregalad's arms. The young Ent sways gently, his leaves rustling. "What is that?" Pippin asks, rubbing his eyes. "Sounds like a storm." Bregalad's face is pale for an Ent. His eyes are wide. "That is no storm," he says. "That is Treebeard." Merry grins, still half asleep. "Well, that is all right then, is it not?" he says. "He is on our side." Bregalad does not answer. He is listening to something the hobbits cannot hear, a song, deep and slow, that runs through the roots of Fangorn. It has always been there, a comforting hum, the pulse of the forest's life. Now it is discordant. Now it is full of fire. In the high places of the forest, other Ents stir, confused. They feel the call of their leader, but it is twisted, sharp where it should be round, quick where it should be slow. "Come," it says. "Wake. March. Destroy." Some resist. They turn their faces away, dig their roots deeper, sing their own songs louder in defiance. Others are old and weary. They have seen too much change, too much loss. The anger in Treebeard's call resonates with their own buried rage. They move. Fangorn empties itself onto the plains. In Isengard, Saruman watches from the balcony of Orthanc as the last of his troops file out through the great gate. The causeway is black with orcs and men, banners snapping in the hot wind. Siege engines rumble, their wheels squealing. He has sent a host westward before to Helm's Deep. That host will still go, for he has not abandoned that plan. But now there is another front, another strike. He will crush Rohan between hammer and anvil. "Ride them down," he murmurs, watching the Uruk-hai march. "Burn their fields, break their will." At his side, Grima Wormtongue shivers. "My lord," he says, licking his lips, "is it wise to trust that?" He gestures vaguely toward the distant line of moving trees. Saruman's eyes flash. "You question me?" he snaps. Grima flinches. "No, no," he says quickly. "Only, the tales say the Ents are not easily tamed, that they remember old grudges, that they might turn on any who use them." Saruman laughs, a brittle sound. "The tales say many things," he says. "They say Mithrandir is dead. They say the West has hope. They are wrong. The old powers have slept too long. They will serve those who are awake." He turns away, his gaze drawn back to the palantir in the center of his chamber. In its depths, a red light burns, steady and implacable. On the road from the Aemon Muil, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli run. They have run for days, following the trail of the orcs who took Merry and Pippin. Their breaths are harsh, their muscles burn, but they do not slow. The plains of Rohan stretch around them, golden and vast. Above, the sky is a hard, cloudless blue. Legolas is the first to feel it, a tremor in the air, a tension in the earth. He stumbles just slightly, his keen senses thrown off. "Something moves," he says. Gimli snorts. "Everything moves," he grunts. "We move. The sun moves. The orcs move. Be more. Not like this," Legolas interrupts. He kneels, pressing his palm to the ground. The soil is warm, too warm. He closes his eyes. He hears, faintly, a low, grinding rumble, like boulders rolling. He hears the crackle of fire. He hears a song, deep and slow, but wrong. His eyes fly open. "The trees," he whispers. "The trees are walking." Aragorn stops dead. "What do you mean?" he asks. Legolas looks east toward the distant smear of green that is Fangorn. "I mean," he says, "that the stories of the Ents are not stories. They are real, and they are coming." "Coming where?" Gimli demands. Legolas hesitates. "Here," he says. To Rohan, Aragorn's gaze sweeps the horizon. He sees nothing yet, only grass and sky, and the faint smudge of smoke far to the north. But something in his blood, in the long memory of his people, stirs uneasily. "The world changes," he murmurs, "faster than we can follow." He thinks of Gandalf, lost in the depths of Moria. He thinks of Boromir, falling by the river. He thinks of Frodo and Sam, walking into the east with the ring. He thinks of Rohan, friendless and beset. "We must reach Edoras," he says. "Whatever comes, they will need warning." They run on. In Edoras, the rumble grows. By noon, everyone can hear it. The horses in the stables rear and scream, rolling their eyes. The children cling to their mother's skirts, crying. Men gather in knots, their hands on hilts, glancing toward the gates. Theoden still sits. Grima leans close, his voice a soft, poisonous thread. "It is nothing, my lord," he says. "Perhaps a storm, perhaps the riders returning. You are weary, you should rest." Eowyn stands at the foot of the throne, her hands clenched. "My lord," she says, her voice tight. "Something comes. The earth shakes. We must send riders to scout. We must prepare." Grima's pale eyes flick toward her. "The king is not well," he says. "He cannot be troubled with every tremor. Sit, lady, sing him a song, if you must be useful." Eowyn's hand twitches toward the dagger at her belt. She does not draw it. She looks at her uncle, at the once mighty king reduced to this shrunken, hollow-eyed figure. Rage and grief burn in her chest. "If we do nothing," she says, "there will be no king to trouble." Theoden stirs, just a little. His eyes, clouded with age and Worm-tongue's potions, flicker. "Oh, win?" he whispers. Grima's hand tightens on his shoulder. "Hush, my lord," he says. She means well, but she is frightened. There is no danger. Saruman is our ally. He would not... The doors of Meduseld slam open. A young rider stumbles in, his face white, his hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. He falls to one knee. Gasping, "My lord," he chokes. The forest moves. Grima wheels on him. "What nonsense is this?" he hisses. "Speak sense or be silent." The rider looks up, eyes wild. "They are as tall as towers," he says. Their eyes burn. They tear the earth with every step. They come from the north and east, and the ground burns behind them. The horses will not go near. We tried to ride out, but they turned and fled. My lord, the trees are coming. Silence falls in the hall. Then, faintly, they all hear it. A deep, grinding roar, like 1,000 millstones turning at once, like the bones of the world shifting. Theoden's fingers twitch on the arm of his throne. Trees, he whispers. Ents. I have heard tales. Grima recovers himself. If they come, he says quickly, it is at Saruman's bidding. He is our ally, as I have said. He will not harm us. These Ents will pass us by, or they will strike our enemies. There is no need for rash action. Eowyn steps forward. My lord, she says, her voice ringing in the hall. Whether they come as friend or foe, we cannot sit and wait. Let us at least arm the men. Let us ready the horses. If Saruman means us well, he will not begrudge us our vigilance. If he means us ill, she lets the words hang. Theoden's eyes meet hers. For a heartbeat, something like the old fire flares. Arm the men, he says, his voice a dry rustle. Grima opens his mouth. Theoden's hand lifts, slow but deliberate. "Silence," the king says. "You have spoken enough." The hall stirs. Eowyn's heart leaps. It is a small thing, this order, this spark of will. But it is something. Outside, the shadow of Fangorn lengthens across the plains. By late afternoon, the first of the Ents are visible from the walls of Edoras. They rise above the grass like moving hills, their crowns brushing the low clouds. Some are gnarled and twisted, their bark blackened by old fires. Others are green and lush, with leaves that shimmer in the hot wind. They move in a loose, terrible formation, roots tearing the soil, leaving deep furrows. At their head walks Treebeard. His eyes, from this distance, are only dark pits, but those who look into them feel a pressure, as if the air itself has thickened. The people on the walls murmur, some in awe, some in terror. By the valor, someone breathes. They are real. Maybe they come to help, another says, hope and fear tangled in his voice. A child laughs, high and bright. "Look, mother," she cries. "Walking trees." Her mother drags her back from the parapet, her face white. Eowyn stands with the other defenders, a sword at her hip, a helm under her arm. The sun glints off her mail, sweat beads on her brow. She watches the Ents approach. They are magnificent, she thinks. They are terrible. They are older than the stones of Meduseld, older than the language in which her people sing their songs. She cannot tell whether they come as friend or foe. No banners fly above them. No words carry on the wind, only the crackle of fire behind them and the grinding roar of their march. In the distance, beyond the line of Ents, another army moves, the host of Isengard, black and bristling, banners of the white hand snapping. They keep their distance from the trees, as if wary, but their path is clear. They march toward the Westfold, toward Helm's Deep. Two storms converge upon Rohan. In the fading light, Gandalf the White comes at last to the borders of the Mark. He rides upon Shadowfax, the great horse's hooves barely seeming to touch the ground. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli follow, weary but unbowed. They have met the riders of Rohan, have spoken with Éomer, have learned of Saruman's treachery. They have not yet seen the moving forest. As they crest a low rise, Gandalf pulls Shadowfax up short. Before them, the land falls away into a wide valley. In the distance, like a ship on a green sea, Edoras rises, its golden hall catching the last light of the sun. Between them and the city, the earth is scarred. Great furrows run across the plains, as if a giant plow has torn them. Trees stand where no trees should stand, scattered like sentinels. Some smolder, their branches blackened. Others are fresh and green, their leaves whispering. The air smells of smoke and sap. Gimli squints. "What in Durin's name happened here?" he demands. Legolas' face is pale. "They passed this way," he says. "Ents. Many Ents." Gandalf's eyes darken. "This is ill news," he says. Aragorn looks at him sharply. "I thought the Ents would be our allies," he says. "You spoke of Fangorn with hope." Gandalf's hand tightens on his staff. "So I did," he says. "So they were, once. But the world is not as it was. There are powers abroad that twist all things to their purpose." He looks east, toward the distant line of smoke that marks the burning edge of Fangorn. "I fear," he says softly, "that Saruman has done more than cut down trees." They ride on, faster now. Night falls. Under the stars, the Ents encircle Edoras. They do not build siege engines. They do not raise ladders. They do not need to. Their arms are longer than any battering ram. Their fingers are stronger than any hook. Their roots dig into the hill on which the city stands, cracking the earth, undermining the walls. The people of Edoras huddle in their houses, listening to the groaning of wood and stone. Theoden stands upon the steps of Meduseld, his sword in his hand. Herugrim gleams faintly in the starlight. It has not been drawn in battle for years. His arm trembles with the weight of it, not from fear, but from disuse. Éowyn stands at his side, her own blade bare. Around them, the king's guard form a ring of steel. The Ents stop just beyond the outer walls. For a moment, there is a strange, heavy silence. Then Treebeard speaks. His voice rolls over the city like thunder, deep and slow, each word a blow. Men of the horse lands, he says. You have hurt the trees. His words are in Westron, but they move with an Entish weight, stretching, grinding. Theoden steps forward. We have taken wood, he calls, his voice hoarse but clear, as we must to live. We have burned no forests for sport. We have cut no trees without need. If wrong has been done, it was not by my order. His words are true, mostly. Rohan is a land of grass, not of great woods. They have always prized horses more than axes. But there have been raids into the fringes of Fangorn, men seeking timber, men fleeing orcs, men who did not ask permission of the old trees. Treebeard's eyes burn. You are all one, he says. Men with axes, men with fire, men who cut and do not plant. Behind him, the other Ents mutter, their voices a low susurrus. Burn them, some say. Crush them. Others say, make them feel it. The web inside Treebeard tightens, feeding on that anger, amplifying it. Leave these lands, Treebeard says, or we will tear them down. There is a murmur among the defenders. Leave? Leave Edoras? Leave the Golden Hall, the burial mounds of their fathers, the stables of their proud horses? Where would they go? Theoden's back straightens. These are the lands of the Eorlingas, he says. We have ridden them for generations. We have bled for them. We will not abandon them at the word of any, be he man, elf, or tree. Éowyn lifts her sword. If you would tear down our hall, she cries, you will find us standing in the doorway. Treebeard's eyes focus on her. For a moment, something flickers in them. A memory, perhaps, of a young elf maiden standing before a grove, her hair like starlight, her eyes fierce. The Entwives had loved such courage. The web tightens again. Then, you will fall, he says. He lifts his arms. The Ents move. Their hands crash down upon the outer walls, smashing stone like dry clay. The wooden palisades splinter under their blows. Roots snake under the gates, prying them up. The hill itself groans, its sides cracking. The defenders fight. Arrows hiss from the walls, thudding into bark. Some find softer places, where moss covers old wounds. A few Ents roar in pain, sap spraying like blood. They tear the arrows out, their fingers snapping shafts. Spears thrust from the parapets, jabbing at reaching hands. Men hack at roots with axes, shouting, their muscles straining. It is like trying to hold back a storm with bare hands. One Ent, younger and more reckless, reaches too far. A dozen men swarm over his arm, chopping, stabbing. He howls, a sound that shivers the marrow, and falls, crashing into the ditch. His body smashes a section of wall. Through the gap, smaller shapes pour, Hurns, dark and twisted, their eyes glowing faintly. They slither over the rubble, their branches whipping. They are not as tall as Ents, but they are quicker, more vicious. They fall upon the defenders like wolves. A guardsman screams as a branch spears him through the chest. Another is dragged from the wall, his helmet torn off, his head slammed against stone again and again until it cracks. Eowyn fights like a flame. Her sword flashes in the torchlight, cutting branches, hacking at grasping roots. Leaves and splinters fly around her. She ducks under a swinging arm, rolls, comes up inside the reach of a Huorn, and drives her blade deep into its trunk. It shrieks, sap-gouting. Theoden stands above her, Herugrim rising and falling. His old strength returns in the heat of battle, his blood singing. For a moment, he is the young king again, the rider who had led charges against Dunlendings, his laughter ringing over the clash of steel. But he cannot be everywhere. A root bursts from the ground at his feet, wrapping around his ankle. He stumbles. A Huorn lunges, its branches whipping. Eowyn sees. She throws herself between her uncle and the onrushing tree. The branch meant for Theoden slams into her instead, hitting her side with bone-cracking force. She flies backward, crashing into the steps of Meduseld. The world explodes in white pain. She cannot breathe. Theoden roars, a raw animal sound. He hacks at the root around his leg, severing it, sap spraying. He stumbles to Eowyn's side. Dropping to his knees, her eyes flutter open. "I am all right," she gasps, though her ribs scream with every breath. He knows she lies. He grips her hand. "I am sorry," he says. She smiles, a twisted, painful thing. "At least, we die on our feet," she whispers. Above them, Treebeard advances. He strides up the hill, each step shaking the foundations of Edoras. His shadow falls over Meduseld, over the carved horse heads, over the golden roof. He reaches out. His hand closes around one of the great wooden pillars at the front of the hall. The carvings crack under his grip. Splinters rain down. Inside, the tapestries that tell the story of the Eorlingas sway. Theoden rises. He stands between Treebeard and the doors of Meduseld, his sword raised. "Go back to your forest, old one," he cries. "Leave us our hall, and we will leave you your trees." Treebeard looks down at him. For a moment, the web slackens. He sees a small figure, brave and defiant, standing before something vast and terrible. He remembers, dimly, the first men who came into the world, frightened and awed, seeking shelter under his branches. He remembers that he had once sheltered them. "Whom?" he rumbles. The eye flares. "Crush him," the voice hisses. "Crush the king, break their symbol, break their will." Treebeard's hand tightens. The pillar shatters. The front of Meduseld collapses in a roar of splintering wood and falling stone. Theoden is thrown backward, buried in a rain of beams and thatch. The golden roof buckles, then slides, crashing down. Eowyn screams, reaching for him. Dust and smoke billow. When it clears, the golden hall of Edoras is broken. Theoden lies still under the wreckage. His crown askew, his eyes staring at the sky he can no longer see. The people of Edoras cry out, a sound of pure despair. On the hillside below, the defenders falter. Some throw down their weapons. Some run. Some stand frozen, their faces blank, as if something inside them has broken with the fall of their hall. Treebeard feels a strange hollowing in his chest. He has done what the voice commanded. He has broken a hall, has killed a king. He should feel satisfaction. He should feel the old anger soothed. He feels only emptiness. The web inside him pulses, filling that emptiness with cold purpose. On, it whispers. On, to the next. Burn their fields, break their houses, drive them from the land. the Ents move deeper into Edoras. They tear down houses, their hands ripping roofs off like the shells of nuts. They crush wagons underfoot, their roots smashing through floors. Hjorns slither through streets, their branches reaching into windows, dragging people out. A woman screams as a branch wraps around her waist, lifting her into the air. A child clings to her skirts, wailing. The branch shakes, trying to dislodge the smaller weight. Éowyn staggers to her feet. Her ribs ache with every breath. Her vision swims, but she does not stop. She charges. Her sword hacks at the branch, again and again. Bark flies. The Huorn shrieks, its grip loosening. The woman falls, hitting the ground hard. The child tumbles after her. Éowyn stands over them, her blade raised. The Huorn recoils, hissing, and retreats into the shadows between houses. For every life she saves, a dozen more are lost. The night is a chaos of fire and splintering wood. Gandalf arrives at dawn. He rides through the smoking ruins of the outer town, Shadowfax picking his way carefully among the debris. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli follow, their faces grim. The air is thick with ash. The smell of sap and blood mingles. They see bodies. Men crushed under fallen beams. Children lying still in the streets. Horses tangled in broken fences. They see trees too, some toppled, their trunks hacked and burned. They see Ents. Some stand motionless, their bark charred, their leaves gone. Others move slowly through the wreckage, their arms heavy with debris. They look dazed, Legolas thinks, as if waking from a dream. At the top of the hill, before the broken shell of Meduseld, Treebeard stands. He is still. His eyes are closed. Around his feet lie splinters of carved wood, shards of gold, stones cracked by the force of his blows. Gandalf dismounts. He walks up the hill, his staff in his hand, his white cloak streaked with soot. Aragorn goes with him. Legolas and Gimli hang back, their hands on their weapons, unsure. "Treebeard," Gandalf calls. The Ents' eyes open. They are not red now. They are dark, deep, full of something like sorrow. "Mithrandir," he rumbles. "You are late." Gandalf's jaw tightens. "So it seems," he says. He looks around, at the broken hall, at the dead, at the smoke rising in thin columns from the ruins. "Why?" he asks. It is not a shout. It is barely more than a whisper. Treebeard's branches sag. "They burned," he says. "They cut. They did not listen." His words are slower now, less jagged. Gandalf steps closer. "Who?" he asks. "Who burned? Who cut? Who did not listen?" Treebeard's gaze drifts north toward Fangorn. "White wizard," he says. "Axes. In the dark. Fire. In the roots. Voice. In my head." Gandalf's eyes flash. "Saruman," he breathes. Treebeard flinches at the name. The web inside him pulses, reacting to the recognition. Gandalf feels it. He reaches out, placing his hand against Treebeard's bark. The contact is like plunging his arm into a river of molten iron. He feels the weight of ages, the slow, deep thought of the Ent, the pain of loss, the fury at destruction. He feels, coiled around all of it, a cold, alien presence. Sauron. He jerks his hand back, his palm smoking. Treebeard shudders. "I did this," he says, looking down at the ruins of Edoras. "I broke the hall. I killed the King." His voice cracks on the last word. Gandalf closes his eyes for a moment. He sees Theoden, proud and broken, standing upon this very hill. He sees him falling under the wreckage. He sees Éowyn, pale and fierce, standing over the people. "Not you alone," he says softly. "There are others whose hands are upon this deed." Treebeard shakes his great head. "Whom?" he says. My hands are big enough. A low moan rises from the ruins. Eowyn limps up the hill, her face bruised, her hair tangled, her sword still in her hand. She stops when she sees Gandalf. "Mithrandir," she breathes. He turns. "Lady Eowyn," he says. They look at each other for a long moment. Then her gaze shifts to Treebeard. She stiffens. Her hand tightens on her sword. Gandalf steps between them. "Stay your hand," he says. Her eyes blaze. "He killed my king," she says. "He tore down our hall. He crushed our people. Why should I not strike him?" Treebeard bows his head. "If you must," he says. "I will not stop you." Gandalf's voice hardens. "Because," he says, "if you strike him, you strike a slave, not a master." And the master sits still in his tower, laughing. He turns to Treebeard. "Can you feel him still?" he asks. The voice, the web. Treebeard's branches twitch. "Yes," he says, "like thorns in my sap." "Then we must cut them out," Gandalf says. He raises his staff. The white light that bursts from its tip is not the gentle glow of starlight. It is a fierce, searing brilliance, like the heart of a lightning bolt. It slams into Treebeard's chest. The Ent roars. The web inside him writhes, turning red-hot under the onslaught. Lines of fire race through his bark, tracing the paths of Sauron's influence. Smoke rises from his leaves. In Barad-dûr, Sauron feels the resistance. He focuses. The eye narrows. "Mine," he snarls, pouring more of his will down the tenuous thread that runs from Mordor to Fangorn, from Fangorn to Treebeard. In Orthanc, Saruman staggers. The palantir under his hand flares, heat searing his palm. He cries out, but he does not let go. He pours his own will into the connection, reinforcing it. "Stay," he hisses. "Obey. Destroy." In Edoras, Gandalf grits his teeth. The force pressing back down the staff is immense. It is like trying to hold back a river with his bare hands. His muscles tremble. Sweat beads on his brow. Aragorn steps forward, placing his hand on Gandalf's shoulder. Legolas does the same. Gimli, grumbling, adds his strength. It is not magic they lend him, not in the way of wizards, but it is will. It is the stubborn, unyielding determination of men, the keen, bright focus of elves, the deep, enduring resilience of dwarves. It flows through Gandalf, into the staff, into the light. Treebeard screams. The web burns. Strands snap one by one, with sounds like cracking ice. The shard buried in the soil of Fangorn, far to the north, glows white-hot, then explodes, sending a shockwave through the forest. Orcs and men nearby are thrown to the ground, their ears bleeding. In Barad-dûr, Sauron recoils. He does not scream. The eye flares, then narrows to a slit. "Very well," he says, his voice like grinding stone. "Take your tree, Mithrandir. I have others." In Orthanc, Saruman collapses. The palantir goes dark. His hand smokes, the skin blistered and blackened. He stares at it, breathing hard. Then he looks west, toward Rohan, and east, toward Mordor. He feels, for the first time, something like fear. In Edoras, the light fades. Gandalf sags, catching himself on his staff. Treebeard stands, smoking slightly, his bark charred in places. His eyes are clear. He looks around. He sees the ruins of Meduseld. He sees the broken bodies. He sees Eowyn, standing with her sword, her eyes hard and wet. He falls to his knees. The impact shakes the hill. Sorry, he says. The words are simple, but they carry the weight of ages. Eowyn's jaw clenches. "Sorry," she repeats. "Will that raise the dead? Will that rebuild our hall?" Treebeard bows his head. "No," he says. Silence stretches. Then Aragorn speaks. "Rohan still stands," he says. "Its people live. Its riders can still ride." Its fields, though scarred, still grow. We cannot undo what has been done. We can only choose what we do next. He looks at Gandalf. Saruman marches on Helm's Deep, he says. Does he not? Gandalf nods. Yes, he says, with a great host. And now, without Edoras, without Theoden, Rohan is weaker than before. Legolas' eyes narrow. Not only Saruman marches, he says. The Ents, the Huorns, they have tasted battle. They have been turned once. They may be turned again. Treebeard lifts his head. No, he says, a low rumble. No, more turning. No, more webs. He looks at Gandalf. What can I do? He asks. Gandalf studies him. You can choose, he says. Truly choose. Not as a weapon, but as yourself. You can decide what the Ents will be in this war, scourge or shield. Treebeard is silent for a long time. The sun climbs higher. Smoke rises from the ruins. Finally, he speaks. We will go to Helm's Deep, he says. We will stand between men and orcs. We will stop the axes that burn forests for sport. But he looks at Eowyn. But men of Rohan must promise no more cutting without asking, no more burning without need, no more forgetting that trees are alive. Eowyn's lips press together. It is a hard bargain in some ways. Her people have always taken what they needed from the land, seeing it as their right, their duty. To ask the permission of trees would seem strange to many, but she has seen what happens when trees are not asked. She nods. I will speak for Rohan, she says. If there is a Rohan left to speak for, we will remember. Treebeard's shoulders ease. Then we will remember, too, he says. He rises. His shadow falls over the broken hall. He turns, looking north. Come, he calls, his voice rolling out over the plains. Come, my friends. We have work to do. In the distance, shapes stir. Ents, who had lingered at the edges of Edoras, uncertain, begin to move. Huorns lurking in the shadows of ruined houses slither out. They gather, forming a dark, towering mass. They turn west toward the distant sound of drums and horns, toward Helm's Deep. The ride to the Hornburg is a nightmare. The survivors of Edoras flee in a ragged column. Women, children, the old, the wounded. Wagons creak under hastily loaded possessions. Horses strain, their flanks lathered. The sky is a low gray ceiling, heavy with unshed rain. Eowyn rides at the head of the column, her injuries bound, her face set. Beside her, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli ride, their eyes scanning the horizon. Behind them, like a moving forest, the Ents march. Their steps shake the ground, but they keep their distance from the refugees, careful not to crush. Their presence is both comfort and terror, a wall of living wood between the people and whatever might pursue. Gandalf is gone. He has ridden ahead to seek Éomer and the riders, to bring what strength he can to Helm's Deep. The air grows colder as they approach the mountains. Rain begins to fall, a fine misting drizzle that soaks cloaks and hair, that turns the road to mud. In the distance, thunder rolls. Not all of it is in the sky. At Helm's Deep, the battle has already begun. Saruman's host swarms across the valley like a black tide, torches flaring in the rain. Siege ladders rise against the deeping wall. Battering rams slam into the gates, arrows hiss, stones crash. The defenders stand upon the walls, their faces grim, their armor slick with water. Éomer is there, his sword flashing. Gamling the Old stands at his side, shouting orders. The people of the Westfold, driven from their homes, fight for their last refuge. Theoden is not there. His absence is a hollow in the line. Saruman watches from afar through the palantir. He sees the flashes of lightning, the arcs of fire as his Uruk-hai set charges at the culvert. He sees the defenders fall. He sees the wall crack. He smiles despite the pain in his burned hand. "Break," he whispers. "Break." In the valley behind the Hornburg, the trees grow thick. They should not. Helm's Deep has always been a place of stone and rock, of sparse scrub and wind. But tonight, in this twisted timeline, a forest waits in the shadows. Horns, drawn by the scent of war, by the call of Treebeard. They are restless. They sway, though there is no wind. Their branches creak. They hunger. The refugees from Edoras pour into the glittering caves, their eyes wide with fear and awe at the glittering stone. Éowyn oversees their arrival, her voice steady. "Stay close," she tells them. "Stay together. The men will hold the walls." A child tugs at her sleeve. "Will the trees come again?" he asks, his eyes huge. She hesitates. "Yes," she says, "but this time they come as our shield." Outside, in the driving rain, Aragorn stands upon the wall of Helm's Deep and looks out at the sea of enemies. His heart sinks. They are so many. The culvert explodes, a gout of fire and water blowing a hole in the wall. Uruk-hai pour through, roaring. Men fall back, fighting, slipping in the mud. For a moment, the line wavers. Then a horn sounds. It is not the horn of Helm Hammerhand, though that echoes too, deep and resonant, from the tower. It is a deeper sound, older, like the bellow of a bull made of stone. The ground shakes from the mouth of the Deeping Combe, from the dark line of trees that has grown overnight. They come, Ents. They stride into the valley, their arms swinging, their roots digging deep. Rain streams down their bark. Lightning flashes around them, turning their silhouettes into black cutouts against white fire. At their head, Treebeard roars. "Whom? Home!" he bellows. "Saruman's axes will be still," the Uruk-hai falter. They have never seen such foes. Some turn their bows upward, loosing arrows at the advancing trees. The shafts thud into bark, into leaves, into moss. Some stick. Most bounce off. An Ent reaches down, plucks up a handful of Uruks, and hurls them into the ranks behind like stones. Another stamps, crushing a dozen underfoot. A third rips a siege ladder from the wall and uses it as a club, sweeping enemies aside. The Huorns pour in behind them, a dark, whispering tide. They do not fight with fists, they engulf. They surround knots of orcs, their branches closing like cages. The screams from within are muffled, then cut off. When the trees move on, there is nothing left but churned mud and a few scraps of armor. On the wall, Aragorn stares. "So this is the wrath of the forest," he murmurs. Legolas' eyes shine. "It is terrible," he says, "and beautiful." Gimli grunts. "As long as they are on our side," he says, "they can be as terrible as they like." Treebeard strides through the enemy host, his eyes blazing. He sees Saruman's banner, the white hand, snapping on a pole near the center of the army. He reaches for it, his fingers closing around the shaft. He snaps it like a twig. The Uruk bearing it roars and lunges, his sword slashing at Treebeard's bark. The blade bites deep. Treebeard snarls. He seizes the Uruk and squeezes. Bone cracks. He throws the body aside. For every enemy he crushes, a dozen more swarm around his roots, hacking, stabbing. His legs are soon slick with black blood and sap. Wounds open in his bark, oozing. He does not stop. On the walls, the defenders take heart. They see the Ents tearing through the enemy ranks, see the Huorns swallowing whole companies. They see the Uruk-hai, once so fearsome, now scrambling like ants before a flood. They shout. They surge forward, driving the attackers back from the breaches. In the tower, the horn of Helm sounds again. Saruman, in Orthanc, grips the edge of the Palantir. He sees his army falter. He sees the Ents. This was not the plan. He snarls. Sauron's presence brushes his mind, cold and amused. "Did you think you alone could wield old powers?" the Dark Lord asks. "You played with trees and roots, Curanir. Did you think they would not grow beyond your hand?" Saruman bares his teeth. "You gave me the shard," he says. "You showed me how to bind the shepherd. You made this possible." "I made many things possible," Sauron says. "You chose how to use them. Now others choose how to answer." He withdraws. Saruman is left alone with the image of his host being torn apart. He slams his fist into the stone. "Then I will break them myself," he hisses. He turns from the Palantir, stalking to the balcony. The rain lashes his face. He raises his staff. Lightning cracks from the clouds, striking the tip. He points it west, toward Helm's Deep. A spear of white fire lances across the sky. In the valley, Treebeard looks up. He feels the hairs on his bark rise. The lightning strikes him full in the chest. For a moment, the world is white. He feels his sap boil, his bark split. He feels his leaves ignite, then doused by the rain. He feels something inside him tear. He falls. The sound is like a mountain collapsing. Ents nearby stagger, some falling, some turning to shield him with their bodies. Huorns recoil, their branches crackling. The Uruk-hai, seeing the great Ent fall, rally. They surge forward, howling. On the wall, Aragorn's heart lurches. "Treebeard!" he shouts. Gandalf, who has returned with Éomer and the riders, his white cloak streaming, feels the shock like a blow. He looks up at the sky. He feels the echo of Saruman's power. His jaw tightens. "So be it," he says. He raises his own staff. White light bursts from it, meeting the next bolt of lightning in midair. The two forces clash, exploding in a spray of sparks that rain down harmlessly. Saruman snarls, unseen. In the valley, Treebeard lies still. Smoke curls from his chest. His eyes are closed. Around him, the battle rages. Ents fight on, their roars mingling with the screams of orcs. Huorns close in, their dark mass thickening. The defenders of Helm's Deep press their advantage, driving the enemy back. But something has shifted. The Ents are more reckless now, more brutal. Without Treebeard's steadying presence, their anger runs hotter. They crush not only orcs, but rocks, wagons, anything in their path. A Huorn, chasing a knot of fleeing Uruks, slams into the outer works of the Hornburg, its roots cracking stone. A section of wall crumbles, sending men tumbling. "Watch where you swing, you great twig!" Gimli bellows, shaking his axe. The Huorn does not hear. It is lost in bloodlust. Legolas' eyes narrow. "This cannot go on," he says. "They will tear down the fortress as surely as the enemy would." Aragorn looks at Treebeard. "We must wake him," he says. Gandalf nods. He leaps from the wall, landing lightly despite his age, and runs toward the fallen Ent. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli follow, cutting their way through the press. They reach Treebeard's side. His chest is blackened, the bark charred and cracked. Smoke seeps from between the plates. His beard is singed. His eyes are closed, his lids heavy. Gandalf places his hand upon the scorched bark. "Treebeard," he says, "shepherd of the trees, wake. Your flock runs wild." There is no response. Gandalf closes his eyes. He reaches, not outward this time, but inward, into the slow, deep well of Entish thought. It is like diving into a lake of molasses. Time stretches, moments lengthen. He sees memories, the first sunrise through young leaves, the laughter of elves, the songs of Entwives in sunlit fields. He sees the long, slow darkening as men spread, as forests shrank. He sees axes, fires, Saruman's pits. He sees Edoras falling. He sees Theoden crushed. He sees Eowyn's face. He feels the weight of guilt that has settled over Treebeard's heart. "Wake," he whispers. "There is still work to do. There is still choice." A spark flickers. Treebeard's eyes open. They are dim, but they are his. "Mithrandir," he rumbles, his voice weak. "You are very insistent." Gandalf smiles, briefly. "So I must be," he says. "Your people need you. Men need you. The world needs you." Treebeard blinks. He looks around, taking in the chaos. Ents smashing, Huorns engulfing, walls cracking. "Whom?" he says. "We are very angry." "Yes," Gandalf says, "and rightly so. But anger without aim is fire in a forest. It burns all, friend and foe alike." Treebeard's gaze sharpens. He lifts his head, slowly. He draws breath. The sound he makes is not a word. It is a roar. It rolls across the valley, over the walls, through the ranks of Ents and Huorns. It is a command, deep and irresistible. The Ents freeze. The Huorns shudder. "Enough," Treebeard says. His voice is low, but it carries. "We came to stop axes. We came to shield the small folk. We did not come to break their stone nests." The Ents shift, uneasy. Some mutter. "They cut," one says. "They burn." "Yes," Treebeard says. "They do. Some. Not all. And we have made them suffer enough for now. Turn your anger where it belongs." He lifts an arm, pointing toward the retreating host of Isengard. The Uruk-hai, seeing the tide turn, have begun to fall back, driven toward the forest that has grown behind them. "Into the trees," Treebeard says. The Huorns rustle. They turn. They flow around the remaining defenders, around the Ents, forming a living wall between the Hornburg and the fleeing orcs. The Uruk-hai, driven by terror and the press of their own numbers, plunge into the dark. The forest closes behind them. Their screams rise, muffled, then fade. The valley falls silent, save for the patter of rain and the distant rumble of thunder. On the walls of Helm's Deep, men sag with exhaustion and relief. Eomer leans on his sword, his chest heaving. "We live," he says, as if testing the words. Gimli chuckles, a rough, tired sound. "That was a night to remember," he says. "If any of us live to be old and gray, we will tell of the day the trees saved us." Legolas smiles faintly, "and of the day they nearly destroyed us," he says. Aragorn looks out over the valley. He sees the broken siege engines, the bodies, the trampled mud. He sees the dark, whispering line of Huorns still swaying. He shivers. "Power is never simple," he says. Gandalf stands beside Treebeard. "You have done much harm," he says, "and much good." Treebeard's shoulders sag. "I am tired," he says. Gandalf nods. "So is the world," he says. But it goes on. He looks west, toward the faint, distant glow that marks the ruins of Edoras. "Rohan is broken, but not destroyed," he says. "It has lost its king, but not its people. It has lost its hall, but not its spirit." He looks east, toward the shadow that lies over Mordor. "Sauron has lost a tool," he says, "but he will find others." He always does. Treebeard's eyes close briefly. "What will you do now?" he asks. Gandalf's gaze turns inward. "I will ride to Minas Tirith," he says. "I will stand with men, as I was sent to do. I will see this through to whatever end awaits." He looks at Treebeard. "And you?" he asks. Treebeard looks north, toward Fangorn. "I will go Home, he says. There is fire to put out. There are scars to heal. There are Ents to comfort. We have lost some. We have gained anger. We must not let it root too deep. He pauses. And when the war is over, if it is ever over, we will see if men remember their promise. Eowyn stands nearby, listening. She meets Treebeard's gaze. We will, she says. He studies her. You are very small, he says. She smiles, a little sadly. The smallest things can hold the greatest promises, she says. He considers this. Whom, he says. We will see. He rises. The other Ents gather around him. They turn, slowly, and begin the long march back to Fangorn. As they go, the land itself seems to relax. The tension in the air eases. The rain softens. Behind them, Helm's Deep stands, scarred, but standing. In the weeks that follow, Rohan changes. Eowyn, with Éomer, takes up the burden of rule. There is no golden crown now, no formal coronation. The hall in Edoras lies in ruins. The people live in tents among the wreckage or in the shelter of the glittering caves. They rebuild as they can, with what little wood they dare to take. Before every tree is felled, someone goes to its trunk, lays a hand upon the bark, and speaks. Some words are clumsy, some are heartfelt, some are muttered, embarrassed. The trees do not answer, but the people feel better for having asked. Songs change. Old lays of battles and horses gain new verses, of the night the Ents came, of the fall of Meduseld, of the stand at Helm's Deep. Children play at being walking trees, their arms outstretched, their voices deep. They argue, in their games, whether the trees are friend or foe. The answer is never simple. In Fangorn, the fires are out. Blackened stumps stand among the green, a grim reminder. The air smells of ash and new growth. Treebeard walks slowly among the wounded. He sings. His song is low and mournful, full of long vowels and rolling consonants. It speaks of loss and endurance, of storms weathered and branches regrown. It speaks of Entwives still missing, their absence a hollow in the melody. Other Ents join him, their voices weaving around his. The forest listens. In the deep places where the web once ran, there are scars, veins of glassy black stone like frozen lightning. Nothing grows there yet. The soil is hard, unyielding. Treebeard pauses by one such scar. He places his hand upon it. I will not forget, he says. He does not know if the land hears him. In Orthanc, Saruman sits alone. The Palantir is dark. His hand is bandaged, the skin underneath twisted and scarred. His staff leans unused in a corner. He stares at the wall. He has lost much. His army shattered at Helm's Deep. His influence weakened by the failure at Edoras. His alliance with Sauron strained by mutual blame. He has also gained something, though he does not yet understand it. He has seen what happens when old powers are bound and turned. He has seen the cost to others and to himself. He has felt Sauron's will press against his own, has realized how little room there is for two in such a partnership. He is bitter, but he is not entirely blind. Trees, he mutters. Horses, men, all stubborn, all ungrateful. He looks east toward Mordor. He feels the eyes' attention like a distant heat. Use them, Sauron had said. He had. They had used him in turn. He laughs, a dry, cracked sound. Perhaps, he says to the empty room, I chose the wrong side. No one answers. In Minas Tirith, the white city gleams under a clear sky. Gandalf stands upon the walls with Pippin, looking east. The war has not yet come to the city's gates in this timeline, but it will. Sauron's plans have shifted, but not his goal. He will test Gondor's strength, will seek to break men's last great bastion. News of Rohan's trials has reached the city. There are whispers in the streets. Did you hear? The trees walk in the mark. They say the Golden Hall is gone. They say a woman holds a sword in the king's stead. Some scoff, some shiver. Denethor, steward of Gondor, sits upon his chair and broods. He has always mistrusted Rohan, even as he has relied upon its riders. Now, with its king dead, its hall broken, its people scattered, he sees weakness where others see resilience. We cannot count on them, he says to himself. We must stand alone. Gandalf hears of this. He sighs. Men, he says to Pippin, always so quick to see division, so slow to see connection. Pippin looks up at him. Do you think the trees would come here? He asks. To help? Gandalf smiles faintly. They have their own battles, he says, their own wounds. They are not ours to summon, but he looks north toward the faint, distant line of Fangorn. If they choose to come, he says, it will not be because we call. It will be because they remember. Pippin shivers. I hope they remember us kindly, he says. Gandalf's gaze is distant. So do I, he says. Time passes. The war moves on. Frodo and Sam, far away, creep through the wastes of Mordor, the ring growing heavier with every step. Gollum leads them, his eyes gleaming. The weight of Sauron's attention falls more and more upon them, drawn by the ring's presence. In this timeline, the eye is slightly dimmer. A sliver of its power remains tangled in the scars of Fangorn, in the memory of Treebeard's ensnarement, in the burned shard buried under ash. It is not much in the scale of Sauron's might, but it is something. Perhaps, at the very edge of possibility, it is enough to make his gaze waver at a crucial moment. Perhaps, at the Black Gate, when all seems lost, when Frodo and Sam lie upon the slopes of Mount Doom, the ring heavy in Frodo's hand, when Gollum leaps, teeth bared, and the world holds its breath, the eye turns. It sees the ring upon Frodo's finger. It sees the fire. It reaches. And then, just for a heartbeat, it flickers. It remembers another fire, in another place. The burning of Fangorn's edge, the explosion of the shard, the severing of the web. It remembers the resistance of another will, slow and deep, pushing back. It hesitates. In that hesitation, Gollum bites. He falls. The ring tumbles into the fire. The world shudders. Barad-dûr cracks. The eye expands, then collapses, its light flaring and then snuffed. The great tower falls, its foundations crumbling. The land around it splits. Rivers of lava pouring out. In Fangorn, Treebeard stops. He feels something. He looks east. The shadow has fallen, he says. The other Ents pause in their work of healing and rebuilding. They listen. The wind, which has for so long carried the taste of ash and fear from the east, is clear. Birds sing, leaves rustle. The world breathes. In Rohan, Éowyn stands upon a hill of fresh green grass. Around her, the people have raised a new hall, not as grand as Meduseld, not yet, but sturdy. Its beams are fewer, its carvings simpler. Its roof is thatched, not with gold, but with straw that glows in the sunlight. She looks at it with a mixture of pride and sorrow. It is not the hall of her childhood. It is the hall of her survival. Eomer rides up beside her. The world changes, he says. She nods. It always has, she says. We were only too busy singing of the past to notice. He is silent for a moment. Do you ever think of that night? He asks. Of the trees, of Theoden, She closes her eyes briefly. Every night, she thinks. I do, she says. I always will. He touches her shoulder. We live, he says. We go on. That is what he would have wanted. She smiles, faintly. I know, she says. She looks north. On the horizon, the dark line of Fangorn is a comfort and a threat. Do you trust them? Éomer asks. She considers. I do not know if trust is the right word, she says. We have seen what they can do. We have seen what can be done to them. They are not our pets. They are not our enemies. They are themselves. Éomer snorts. You sound like Mithrandir, he says. She laughs softly. Perhaps I listened, she says. In Fangorn. Treebeard stands at the edge of the forest. He looks out over the plains of Rohan. The grass waves in the wind. He sees in the distance tiny figures moving. Riders, farmers, children. He sees smoke rising from cooking fires, not from burning forests. He hears faintly a sound, singing. It is a new song, in a tongue he does not know well, but he understands the feeling. It speaks of loss and endurance, of horses and halls, of trees that walk and halls that fall and rise again. He listens. He hums along under his breath. Whom, he says. They remember. Behind him, in the deep of the forest, there is another sound, soft, tentative, like the crack of a seed shell. A sapling, where none has grown for years, pushes up through the soil in a place once scarred by the web. Its leaves are small, its stem thin, but it reaches for the light with stubborn determination. Treebeard turns. He watches it. He feels something in his old heart stir. Hope, perhaps, or something like it. He leans down, very carefully, and cups his hand around the tiny tree, shielding it from the wind. Grow, well, he whispers. The sapling trembles. Far away in the Shire, under a sky washed clean by distant storms, Merry and Pippin sit on a hill and smoke their pipes. They tell stories of walking trees and broken halls, of battles in the rain and horns in the deep, of a great old being, twisted and freed, who tore down a king's roof and then stood between that king's people and the darkness. They argue, as hobbits do, over the details. His beard was longer, Pippin insists. His voice was deeper, Merry counters. They laugh. They fall silent. Merry looks east. Do you think he ever forgave himself? He asks. Pippin blows a smoke ring. Treebeard, he says. He is an Ent. He has a long time to think about things. Maybe he has not decided yet. Merry chuckles. Maybe none of us have, he says. They sit. The sun sets. In Fangorn, as the light fades, Treebeard stands very still. He listens to the wind in the leaves, to the creak of branches, to the distant, faint echo of songs sung in a tongue of men. He remembers the weight of a haul in his hands. He remembers the feel of a web burning inside him. He remembers a tiny sapling reaching for the light. He does not speak. The forest breathes around him, slow and deep. Somewhere in the dark, a single leaf, new and tender, unfurls in the night.